Okay, imagine you're a prince. Not in a fairy tale, a real one. You're born into the House of Saud, a family sitting on something like $1.4 trillion. You've never once looked at a price tag in your life. Palaces, private jets, a whole kingdom floating on the biggest, cheapest oil reserves on the planet. And most people, when they hear that, picture the dream, right? Endless money, endless power, total freedom. But here's the thing nobody actually tells you. There are around 15,000 princes in your family, 15,000, and a lot of them, they are quietly, almost broke. Because in this family, the title doesn't mean what you think it means. The money isn't something you own, it's something you're allowed to stand next to. And the closer you try to get to the real money, the more dangerous your life gets. So stick with me here, because by the end of this, you'll see how a prince can be surrounded by $1 trillion and somehow control almost none of it. Why one single weekend in 2017 still quietly terrifies every royal in the country. And why being born a Saudi prince might just be the most beautiful cage ever built. This is the economics of being a Saudi prince. Let's start with the money, because honestly, the scale of it is hard to even fit in your head. The Saudi royal family doesn't just have money, they've basically got a whole country's worth of it. The kingdom is sitting on roughly a sixth of all the oil humanity has ever confirmed exists. And the company that pumps it, Saudi Aramco, is so valuable that back in 2019, when they sold off just a tiny sliver of it to the public, it instantly became the most valuable company in the history of the world. Around $2 trillion. That's one company. In a good year, Aramco has earned more profit than Apple, Google, and Microsoft combined. Hundreds of millions of dollars in profit on an ordinary day while you're asleep. And here's the craziest part of that engine. Their oil is some of the cheapest on earth to pull out of the ground. While other countries spend $40, $50 to produce a single barrel, the Saudis can do it for a handful of dollars. So almost every dollar that oil sells for is basically profit. That has been the engine for 80 straight years. And that's not even all of it. There's also the Public Investment Fund, the country's sovereign wealth fund, sitting on something like $900 billion. And it is everywhere. It owns big chunks of Uber, electric car companies, video game studios. It bought an English football club, Newcastle, and the fans threw a party in the streets. It launched its own breakaway golf league just to muscle into the sport. And it's pouring something like $500 billion into a straight-up science fiction city they're carving out of empty desert. A mirrored wall, 100 miles long, that you'd be able to see from space. When you hear the words Saudi money, this, all of this, is the machine humming away in the background. But here's what makes it wild. None of this is old money. Go back less than 100 years, and this was one of the poorest corners of the entire planet. Mostly desert, tribes, traders, and pilgrims. And then, in 1938, prospectors struck oil, a lot of oil, more than anyone had ever seen. Almost overnight, a kingdom that had basically nothing was sitting on top of the single most valuable resource on Earth. The Americans came to drill it, the deal of the century got signed, and the money started pouring in amounts nobody in that desert had ever even imagined. Glass towers went up where there used to be sand. And it all traces back to one guy, Ibn Saud, who pulled the country together in 1932 and had dozens of sons. Those sons and their sons became the kings, the ministers, the governors, the hand behind basically every major decision in the kingdom for the last 90 years. So when you're born a prince today, you're not inheriting some 1,000-year-old throne. You're inheriting the single luckiest geological accident in human history. So when you hear that $1.4 trillion number thrown around for the family, the oil, Aramco, the fund, the land, the palaces, that's what people mean. And on paper, you, the prince, are part of the single richest family on earth. So far, it really does look like the dream, doesn't it? But here's where it turns, and it turns hard. Because here's what almost nobody actually understands about being a Saudi prince. The title is the same for every single one of them. The reality is nothing alike. 15,000 princes. And your whole life basically comes down to one thing: how close your blood runs to the founding king. If you're a direct son or grandson of Ibn Saud, okay, sure, you might run a ministry, sit on billions, genuinely shape the future of the country. But if you're one of the thousands of cousins way down the family line, your royal title comes with something a whole lot smaller: a monthly allowance from the state. And for years, those allowances ran on a strict tier system. According to leaked diplomatic cables, the most distant relatives might get somewhere around $800 a month. The grandchildren of the founder, tens of thousands, and the big names at the very top, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Plus bonuses for building a palace, bonuses for getting married, bonuses for having kids. It sounds completely insane until you remember the catch. A prince has to look like a prince. The cars, the staff, the houses, the entourage, the jet, the whole performance the title quietly demands of you. And think about how fast that problem grows. Ibn Saud had dozens of children. They each had dozens more. 4, 5 generations later, you don't have a royal family anymore. You've got a small royal city. 15,000 people all carrying the same title, all expecting the lifestyle that comes with it, all drinking from the same well. The math just doesn't work for most of them. So here's what actually happens. A lot of the lower-ranked royals end up in debt, or they start leaning on the family name to chase business deals just to keep up the act, trading on a title they can't actually cash. There are real documented cases of minor princes running up huge bills they never pay, getting tangled in lawsuits, getting in trouble overseas, because the name promised a fortune that the bank account just never delivered. And here's the part that hits even at the very, very top. Even that $1 trillion isn't really owned the way you'd own the cash in your pocket. It's tied to the state, to the throne, to the position. Aramco belongs to the kingdom. The fund answers to the crown prince. The oil belongs to the nation. A prince doesn't own that wealth. He's just placed near it, handed access to it, allowed to enjoy it for exactly as long as he stays useful and loyal. You're not a billionaire, you're a recipient. And whatever the throne gives you, the throne can take right back. And to see just how true that is, you have to look at the weekend that none has to more wealth than almost anyone alive. And you can't really call any of it yours. You've got a title the whole world is jealous of, and it comes bolted to surveillance, obligation, and a ceiling that was set before you were even born, just by where you happen to land in the bloodline. You can buy almost anything you can imagine. The one single thing you cannot buy is your own freedom. And it's such a strange kind of trap, because from the outside, it is completely invisible. From the outside, it looks like the exact opposite of a trap. It looks like you won the lottery just by being born. But the cage isn't made of anything you can actually point to. It's made of loyalty you're not allowed to take back, a system you never agreed to. And the memory of a hotel in Riyadh where the most powerful men in the country walked in free and walked out owning a fraction of what they came with. 15,000 princes, one throne, and a fortune that belongs to the position, never, ever the person. Most of us spend our whole lives quietly dreaming about being born into money like this. But the Saudi prince learns the one thing the rest of us never have to: that you can be born into $1 trillion and still not own your own life. You don't rule the kingdom rules you. If this flipped the way you see all of it, do me a favor and tell me in the comments, which cage would you actually pick? And if you want to see what real, old-world power genuinely costs, go ahead and subscribe, because next we are going inside the Vatican.